I didn't mean to fall in love with her. Not while I was fixing her sink with rusted tools and shaking hands. The first time I saw her, she didn't look like a woman who needed help. She looked like someone who'd stopped asking for it. Her name was Elise. She lived 4 doors down from my new place. A stone-gray house with ivy creeping up the side and a porch light that flickered every night like it couldn't decide if it still worked. Same as her, I guess. She was older, 40s, maybe. Hard to tell. Her face had that kind of quiet beauty you only notice after a second glance. Tired, elegant, like a painting someone forgot to hang. I only ended up at her place because of my daughter, Ava. She'd been leaving little crayon drawings on people's mailboxes, and Elise had taped one to her front door with a note. This made my day. Tell your little artist thank you. That was the first time I saw her handwriting, sharp but soft, like her voice. A week later, I heard the crash. I was walking back from the corner store, cheap grocery bags swinging, when I heard something heavy hit tile. I dropped the bag and ran. Her front door was cracked open. Inside, silence. Then a voice, hers, tight and furious and cracked at the edge. Damit nu. She was on the kitchen floor, legs stiff, arms shaking as she tried to reach the phone. Her wheelchair tipped beside her like a dead animal. I moved without thinking. I've got you, I said. Her head whipped toward me. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't scream. She just stared, like I'd walked into something I wasn't meant to see. I didn't ask, she started. Don't, I said, kneeling beside her, hands trembling. She didn't cry. I did later when I got home. She'd fallen trying to reach a glass. The place was too big for one person, especially someone whose legs didn't work anymore. I never asked how it happened. I figured she'd tell me if she ever wanted to. Mostly, she didn't talk. She let me fix the sink that kept leaking, the door that stuck, the light that flickered. She always watched, though, from the threshold, from the couch, her eyes on my hands, my back, my daughter playing on the porch, like she was studying something she didn't trust to be real. And me? I talked too much. Nervous habit. Told her about Ava's night terrors, my ex who left last winter, how I was still figuring out how to braid my daughter's hair right. She'd smile barely, but when she did, it stayed with me. One night, I stayed later than usual. Ava had fallen asleep on her couch with a book about whales. Elise was in the doorway, arms crossed, but not angry, just still. I should go, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. You're the only person who doesn't look at me like a project, she said, barely above a whisper. I turned. She was closer now. Elise, she looked down. That's not a thank you. No, I said. It's not. She nodded once. Then, as I reached past her to get my coat, her fingers brushed mine. She didn't pull away. Neither did I. She looked up. Stay, she said. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was helping her. I felt like she was saving me, too. I should have said no. Not because I didn't want to stay, hell I did. But because I knew what would come with it. The quiet. The things we wouldn't say. The space between us that felt suddenly not so empty anymore. She stood there, still so close. Her hand had just barely touched mine. And now I couldn't stop replaying it. The warmth of her skin. How soft her voice sounded when she'd said, stay, like it cost her something. It's late, I said, even though I didn't move. I know, she said. She paused, then changed it. You don't have to talk. We didn't. Not for a while. I sat beside Ava, pulled the throw blanket over her. Elise went to the window. Her silhouette there, backlit by streetlight. She looked like someone half remembered from a dream. I hated how beautiful she was when she wasn't trying to be. That's the worst kind, really. I caught myself staring again. I always do that around her, catching myself. Her hair was up, loose strands curling behind her ears. The sleeves of her sweater were too long. She kept twisting the fabric between her fingers. Nervous. Or cold. I could never tell. I didn't know her well enough for that yet, and somehow I knew her better than most. She finally spoke. "This house wasn't supposed to be mine," she said. Her voice was calm like a fact. "It was my father's. Bought it when I got out of rehab. Said it'd be good for me to be somewhere peaceful." Her gaze flicked down to her legs. Then she looked away quickly, almost like she flinched from her own body. I said nothing. I knew better than to fill silence that wasn't mine to break. She continued, quieter this time. "It was a car accident. Just one of those wrong turn, wrong time stories. 3 years ago. He died a few months after. Stroke. Or guilt." She looked at me like she was waiting for something. Judgment, maybe. Pity. I didn't give her either. Instead I said, "You make this place feel lived in. Doesn't look peaceful, but it looks real." That made her blink. Just once. Like I'd pulled her off a ledge she didn't know she was standing on. She sat down across from me on the floor this time, pulled her knees up, even though they didn't move. I noticed the way she rested her elbows on them anyway, like muscle memory refused to give up. "I wasn't always like this," she said. So quietly I almost missed it. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees too, mirroring her without thinking. "I don't think anyone's always anything." She gave me a strange look. Not a smile, but softer. Then she glanced at Ava sleeping, her voice almost breaking. "She reminds me of me. Before." I swallowed something tight. "You don't even know her," I said. "No," she said. "But she talks like she's not afraid to be wrong. I used to be like that." I should have said something reassuring. I didn't. I just looked at her, trying to memorize this version of her. Raw, honest, edges showing. Then she reached across and touched my wrist. Lightly, like she wasn't sure if she had permission. Her thumb brushed once against my skin. "Will you stay?" she asked again, but it sounded different now. Like not staying would be a kind of betrayal. I almost said her name. Almost said too much. Instead, I nodded. But I couldn't stop thinking. This feels like the edge of something, and I don't know if I'm the one falling or catching her. I shouldn't have stayed. It's what I kept telling myself. Sitting on her living room floor, the air too still, the kind of quiet that wraps around your throat. Ava snored softly on the couch, clutching her whale book like a lifeline. The clock ticked like it was keeping score. Elise hadn't moved since she touched my wrist. Neither had I. It was subtle, but something had shifted. Like we were on the other side of a door neither of us remembered opening. "You ever feel like you missed your shot?" she said suddenly, like we were mid-conversation. Like the moment already came, and you just didn't know it until it was too late? I looked at her. The way she was curled slightly forward, her fingers absently twisting the edge of her sweater again. She wasn't asking rhetorically. Not really. "I feel that every time I look at Ava," I admitted before I could stop myself. "Like I should have done more to keep her world whole." She looked at me, finally really looked. Her eyes didn't pity. They understood. Like we were both standing in the same rain and pretending it wasn't soaking us. "I was engaged once," she said. "He left the night after the surgery. Said he didn't know how to do this. I think he meant me." My jaw tightened. I hated him instantly. "You deserved better," I said. "I deserved honesty," she replied. But I wasn't exactly honest either. I kept pretending I was okay. Even when I couldn't feel anything from the waist down, I still put on lipstick and lied to people's faces. A pause. Then a bitter smile. "Guess I'm still doing it." Something caught in my chest. A soft panic, maybe, that I was seeing too much of her too fast, and liking it. I stood up to make space. Or tried to. Her hand brushed mine again. Just enough to stop me. Not gripping, just a suggestion. And then, the knock. We both flinched. Her eyes flicked toward the door like she expected a ghost. I stepped toward it before she could say anything. It was a woman. Maybe mid-30s, sharp coat, clean makeup, wet hair from the rain. She looked surprised to see me. "Oh," she said. I'm her physical therapist. I left my bag here earlier. Just wanted to grab it before my next client." I turned back. Elisa's face was unreadable, like a curtain had dropped. "Sure," I said. "Let me grab it." I moved through her house like I didn't belong anymore. When I handed the bag over, the therapist gave me a polite once-over, then a smirk that made my stomach twist. "Your family?" I didn't answer. She left without another word. Back inside, Elise was already repositioning herself on the couch, like she wanted to erase the entire night. "I should go," I said again, this time meaning it. She didn't stop me, but as I turned, her voice came out, low and shaken. "You weren't supposed to see that part of me." I stopped mid-step. "Elise?" She didn't look at me, but she added, almost like a confession. "It felt good, letting someone." I took one slow step back toward her. My heart beat hard in my throat. I wanted to reach for her. Not in some clumsy, romantic way, but just to be there. To close the space she suddenly seemed scared to cross again. But I didn't move. Then she did something that wrecked me. She looked up and whispered, "Don't make me ask again." I didn't sit back down. Her words were still hanging in the room like smoke. "Don't make me ask again." I stood there, half turned toward the door, half toward her. Like if I moved too fast, the moment would collapse under its own weight. "Elise," I said, slow, unsure. "You're not thinking clearly." She laughed. Just once. A dry, hollow sound. "Because I asked you to stay?"
No.
"Because I want to." That did it. Her face shifted. Not surprise, something sharper. Worn down hope, maybe. The kind you don't admit out loud because if you do, it becomes real enough to lose. She leaned forward, elbows on her thighs, fingers gripping the cushion. Her knuckles went white. "You think I don't know this is messy?" she said. "You're what, 25? You have a daughter who calls me the whale lady. I live in a house I didn't choose with a body I don't recognize, and some days I don't even open the damn blinds. You think this is some fantasy for me?" I stepped closer without meaning to. Just 2 feet. Not touching her. Just closer. "No," I said. "I think it's real. That's what scares me." She blinked. Once. Her mouth opened, then closed. Outside, a car passed. Too slow. Headlights cast thin shadows across the floor. Inside, we didn't move. "You want to know the truth?" she said quietly. "I look at you and I feel something, and then I hate myself for it. Because it feels good. And that's not supposed to happen anymore. Not for me." I sat down again. Finally. Right in front of her. "You think you're the only one scared of this?" I said. "Elise, I haven't let someone see me, really see me, in years. Everything I do is for Ava. Every decision, every second. I don't have space for this." She stared at me. "So why are you still here?" I didn't answer. I reached out slow, let my hand rest on her knee, over the soft cotton of her leggings. Her body tensed under my palm. She didn't look away, didn't flinch, but her voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't know what this is for me." "Then tell me," I said, quieter than I meant to, and then her hand came to mine. Not over it, into it. Fingers slipping between my own like it had already happened before, like we'd forgotten it wasn't supposed to. "You make me feel like I still exist," she said. "Not as a daughter, not a patient, not someone broken, just me. You shouldn't get to do that." Could have kissed her. Right then. I didn't, because Ava shifted on the couch. A small sound, a child's half-waking murmur, and the spell cracked just slightly. We both turned, looked, waited. Then Elise looked back at me, and I swear, whatever wall she'd built over the years, it wasn't just cracked now. It was crumbling. She didn't let go of my hand, but she asked, voice shaking, barely audible, "What happens if I want more?" She asked it so quietly I almost missed it. What happens if I want more? I couldn't answer right away. My hand was still in hers. Ava was breathing softly again behind us, and something in me, something deep, scared, young, was screaming, "Don't ruin this." But before I could speak, her phone buzzed. Once, twice. She let go of my hand. I watched her glance at the screen. Her face drained just a little, not fear but recognition. Like she'd expected this call for weeks and had been hoping it wouldn't come. "I need to take this," she said, voice clipped. I nodded and stood, giving her space. I didn't want to overhear, but her voice carried, it always did when she didn't want it to. "Yes, this is Elise's car." I turned, my chest going cold. I only knew that name because I'd seen it before, years ago, back when my brother worked for Cartech. Their CEO had a daughter, went off the grid after the accident. Paralyzed, they said. Vanished. Rumors. That was her. I didn't know what to do with that. Except suddenly I remembered something. From a long time ago. A benefit gala. I was 19. Tagging along with my brother. Wearing a too-tight suit. Feeling like a fraud. And there'd been this girl at the edge of the crowd. Long dark hair. Red dress. Standing alone under a chandelier. Swirling water in a wine glass. She'd smiled at me. Just once. I never forgot it. It was her. She hung up. Turned. Saw the look on my face. "What?" she asked, cautious now. "I think I've met you before," I said, slow, stunned. Her breath caught. "At the Cartech Gala," I said. 6 years ago. You were standing by the window. You smiled at me." Her face didn't move, but her shoulders did, just slightly, like someone had knocked the wind out of her. "I remember you," she said. "You do. You were the only one who didn't look past me." Even then, we stared at each other. And then she said quietly, "I was different then. You wouldn't have liked who I was." "I think you were lonely," I said. "Same as me." She opened her mouth, closed it again. Her hand came up and rubbed the edge of her jaw. Nervous tick I'd noticed before. "I didn't tell you who I was because I didn't want it to change things," she said. "You'd start seeing the headlines. The money. The fall. I'm not here because of your name." "I know," she whispered. "That's what scares me." Then Ava stirred again and blinked awake. Hair a mess, cheeks flushed. "Daddy," she said groggily. "Are we going home?" Elisa's face shifted instantly. She sat up straighter, pulled her sweater sleeves down, composed her expression in a heartbeat. "Yes," I said, walking over, picking Ava up gently. "We're going." As I stood in the doorway, Ava resting her head on my shoulder, Elise met my eyes. Not pleading, not regretful, but something worse. Unspoken. I hesitated. Then she said something I wasn't ready for. "You saw me before. You see me now. Which one is real?" And I didn't know how to answer. We didn't talk for 2 days. Not because of Ava. Not because of the phone call. But because I didn't know what to say after "which one is real?" I kept replaying it in my head. The tone, the look on her face. Not anger. Not hurt. Something closer to surrender. Like she'd handed me the sharp edge of herself and was waiting to see if I'd bleed. I almost called her. Twice. I even walked to her house once. Ava's drawings clutched in my fist like some excuse. I turned back before I hit the porch. But on the 3rd night I came. No tools.
No groceries.
Just me. She opened the door slower this time. Didn't smile. She was barefoot, in a long cardigan, and her hair was wet, like she hadn't expected anyone. She held the edge of the doorframe like it grounded her. I said, I keep trying to find the right words, but maybe there aren't any. She just nodded. So I stepped inside. Slowly, carefully. The house felt different. Not empty, just quieter. She watched me, arms folded, back straight in the chair like she was preparing for bad news. I saw you, I said finally, at the gala, at the sink, on the floor, in the doorway, every version. A pause. I still see you. Her jaw tightened. She looked down, and for a second, I thought she might cry. Instead, she laughed once, dry, but real. I don't know how to do this, she said. I don't either, I admitted. She looked up then. Her eyes were glassy, but clear. You're not supposed to get close to people like me. That's not how the story goes. Maybe the story was wrong. A long silence followed. Then she said the thing I'd been too afraid to. I want you here, not just tonight. I mean, her voice caught. I want to be seen by someone who doesn't turn away when it gets hard. I moved toward her, kneeling down beside the chair. My hand rested on hers, no dramatics, no rush. Just contact. Stillness. I want to stay, I said. But only if we both stop pretending this is temporary. She looked at me, fully. No armor this time. Just her. You really want to be with someone who can't even walk to the damn door? I want to be with someone who walked through hell and still opens it. She pressed her lips together, shaking slightly now. I didn't know if it was tears or the weight of hearing what she never thought anyone would say. Then her hand moved, slow, hesitant, and rested at the side of my face. Just fingertips. I don't want to be a ghost in my own life anymore, she whispered. I turned my head slightly, kissed her wrist, right where her pulse fluttered under the skin. You're not, I said. Not with me. Ava was the one who sealed it. 2 weeks later, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, she ran ahead of me toward Elise's porch, boots splashing in shallow puddles, her pink hoodie soaked through. She banged on the door 3 times, grinning. Elise opened it with a look that still caught me off guard. Not because she looked different, but because she didn't look like she was bracing anymore. She'd left her hair down. Her wheelchair was pulled closer to the door this time. No space between her and the world. Guess what? Ava said, holding out a crumpled drawing. It's you. Elise took it carefully. It was a stick figure version of her, smiling in a chair, with Ava holding her hand. You gave me legs, Elise said softly. Ava shrugged. You don't need M in dreams. And just like that, she wheeled back and let us in, no hesitation, no shame. Some things didn't change overnight. She still had bad mornings. Her hands would tremble sometimes when she tried to cook. Some days I'd show up and the blinds were drawn again, and I'd know not to push. But little things shifted. She started leaving the porch light on again. She let Ava paint her nails while talking about whales. She asked me to teach her how to make French toast. And one night, just last week, she handed me a key. No big speech. Just pressed it into my hand and said, for when I forget how to ask. I kissed her that night. For real this time.
No hesitación.
No near misses. Just us. Real and present and terrifying in the best way. Looking back, it wasn't the accident that stole her, or the fiancé who left, or the silence she wrapped herself in for years. It was time. Time she thought she'd missed. Time she thought had passed her by. But it hadn't. And maybe that's the truth no one tells you. Some moments don't pass. They wait for the right knock on the door. For the wrong person to become the right one. For a child's drawing to say what grown-ups can't. I don't think either of us planned to fall into this. But that's what made it real. She doesn't say stay anymore. She says, see you soon. And I do. Every time.